Derek, turn your camera on. What up, what up, what up? It's your boy J-Dub, and welcome to another exciting episode of Kicking It with the JW Effect. Today, we got a great show for you. Before we get started, let me introduce my host to you. What's going on, Derek?
What up, what up? What's up, J-Dub? How you feeling?
I'm great, man. Kind of like nervous because we got this new broadcasting site going on. It's the first day we're going to use it, and I'm already nervous. Y'all got me nervous, but we're going to get right through this. The show is on, and we're ready to give out this great information.
All right, good stuff, man. There ain't nothing to it but to do it. That's what the saying says.
Yeah, they say put your money where your mouth is. You know how that get down.
Well, yeah.
Right, so let's get it in. First, we're going to bring our guests in here. We'll introduce everybody. We got Kevin Hutchison. Y'all can unmute your mic. Go forward.
Thank you, gentlemen, for bringing me on. It's a pleasure. Looking forward to it on today.
All right. Welcome to the show, Kelvin. I'm sorry, Kelvin.
It's all right.
All right. And of course, everybody know this gentleman here. He's very well known around the planet. He's doing real good big things. Hi, welcome back, Benji.
Hey, J-Dub, thanks for having me back. Good to see you, Derek.
Okay.
Hey, what's up, Benji?
All right, so let's get to it. Today is the part 2 of the topic, top black athletes, top black recruits. attending PWIs. I'm sorry, top black recruits attending HBCUs versus PWIs. And blast. Oh man, sorry about that, everybody. And last show, we piled a lot of information on the viewers from the guests we had on. But today, I decided to go with, we're going to taper it down a little bit. I struggled with trying to lead up to the show, but I came across a dissertation that explains a lot of what we're trying to message and everything we're trying to get out for other people to understand. Trying to get top black athletes to attend HBCUs pertaining to, versus PWIs, because it's not as simple as it sounds. It's a lot of ingredients to the pie. And I came across a dissertation. I am going to share it on my social media pages with the link. You can go download it, read it, and it's good reading. And name of the dissertation. Name of the dissertation. It comes out of Georgia State University, kinesiology dissertation, Department of Kinesiology. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Kinesiology.
Say it again.
Kinesiology.
I'm missing the kink. Okay, kinesiology. Spring 5/17/2019. The dissertation is only 2 years old, so it's fairly fat. And it's the name of it is the administrator perception of the organizational effectiveness of financial conditions of historical black colleges and university athletic departments. It's by Kelly Elliott. And today we got together and we said we're going to break down different portions of it in the review literature section. It has the current financial state of HBCUs and financing HBCUs athletic programs, attracting coaches, and I didn't get yours, Derek. What section did you have?
I had a section on TV revenue and alumni support.
Right. So we got a few bullet points from this, and me, Derek, and my guest, we're gonna share with you what the dissertation has, and then we're gonna talk about it. So we hope you enjoy the show and the information that we get ready to give you. And before we get started, let you know that Kicking It with the JW Effect is now being streamed live through the JW Effect Incorporated business Facebook page and on the JW Effect Incorporated YouTube page. On the YouTube page, if you're seeing it through the YouTube page, hit the subscription so you can get upcoming information and you can through your subscription. All right, so let's get this started.
JW, you gotta do like my kids do it. You gotta say hit click like and subscribe so you get the new upcoming information on YouTube page. Yeah, my kids got it down packed to watch so many YouTube videos and stuff. But yeah, it's a great format. JW, you got us up here into the 21st century here on all the websites. And again, this dissertation I had the privilege of reading. Most of this dissertation, also doing some outside digging with this stuff. So JW, there's a lot of information in here, and there's a lot of, as you stated earlier, the backstory that people don't see. People see, well, all the good kids are going over here to XYZ school and not going to the HBCUs, but it's a reason behind it.
Right.
And again, we hope to give the people the facts so they can form their own opinion and do what they need to do going forward with the information.
Great. I appreciate that. And you're absolutely right. It's more to, like I said earlier, it's more to the pie than just an egg and milk. Definitely be used to make a pie. All right, so we're going to start out in the current financial state of HBCUs. and I pulled out some bullet points. I'm just going to read 3 of them real quick, and then we just, amongst ourselves, we just go and discuss them. It pointed out that HBCUs are facing painful financial struggles as enrollment continued to decrease. And HBCUs only receive a small percentage of overall grants from the federal government. And HBCU administrator says financing university programs as their top challenge. Before we get going, Kelvin, tell me a little bit about yourself and what you got going on.
Yes, sir. I'm a former head football coach, high school here in Virginia. I'm also a teacher. I went to a PWI school as my undergrad. I played college football there, Division III at Avery University. And but I've been around some HBCUs. Of course, my wife, she is a double graduate from undergrad and our master's. And I live in a community where we did have a HBCU, St. Paul's College. And I'm close to Virginia State University. Had the opportunity to coach at St. Paul's as a linebackers coach before they closed their athletic program and their school. So this dissertation really kind of hit home for me and some touch points that you mentioned. So I'm very interested in the discussion here today.
Outstanding. Well, Benji, I'm gonna have you tell us about yourself from a coach's standpoint, because I just, when I was on your show Monday with all those 80 powerful African American coaches, I was like, woo. So tell us about that, and let's get it rolling.
Yeah, I've been a high school coach here in New Jersey for 32 years. And I've coached, baseball and football. And this past year, I became the president of the New Jersey Minority Coaches Association, which just was established last year. And we're working with, coaches in all sports throughout the state of New Jersey. And it looks like now we're going to be bringing on Philadelphia and some New York coaches. So it's going to be more or less of a tri-state organization that represents coaches. And one of our focuses really is to increase the number of minority males, and particularly when it comes to education and coaching. I think we've talked about it before, nationwide, only 2% of all teachers are African-American men. So that number is probably around the same when it comes to coaching. In New Jersey, we have 300 plus head football coaches, and only 30 are African-American men. So that's our focus and goal, and to inspire some young men to get involved in coaching, and particularly starting off in education.
Cool beans, got it. All right, let's get to it. Like I said, we're going to, it's a lot of information, and we digging into the current financial state of HBCUs. The bullet points that I grabbed out of there under that section in the review of literature, it was like the HBCUs are facing painful financial struggles as enrollment decrease. HBCUs only receive a small percentage of overall grants from the federal government, and HBCUs administrators says facing universal programs are their top challenge.
Yeah, so definitely, J-Dub. It's in doing some research, it was that it's actually costing kids more to go to HBCUs than PWIs because of the financial strength that HBCUs have, because they're trying to get money from other resources, and their biggest generator of revenue are the students that they enroll. Compared to PWIs, who have bigger alumni giving, a bigger base of just supporters and cast like that. There was one thing that I read, and it said about land grants or getting grants, and it said that in 2014, Johns Hopkins University got $1.6 billion in state, federal, and local grants. And Howard University got the most out of HBCUs at $57 million. 57 million compared to 1.6 billion dollars. HBCUs, J-Dub just cannot get the funds.
But you got to leave your. Y'all just chime on in, Benji and Kelvin. This is a big time discussion. It's like we sitting there around drinking some tea, and we just chat about it.
I got you. So when you talk about the not the equal amount of funding, I mean, I think that's been going on for years, but since 2020, the amount of donations have increased to HBCUs. And that's come from the social unrest that, we saw with George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and, the many marches and things that we had going on. And I would also contribute, the foolishness of Donald Trump. So the numbers of donations have gone up. I mean, Mackenzie Scott, the wife of Jeff Bezos, gave away $4 billion. And I believe Virginia State benefited, our alma mater, JW, got 30 mil of that.
Yes.
And many have. So the numbers have increased. And also the high profile HBCU graduates in influential positions, from Kamala Harris to, you go down the line to Clyburn and the new senators that we have that are coming in. They have put us on a new level. I think at some point in between Senate and Congress, you have almost 30 HBCU graduates. And, that is a situation where we will bring more money in. I know Jim Clyburn is one of the main people out, the congressman out of South Carolina, has done an outstanding job with the South Carolina State Endowment. So I think the days are definitely brighter. And I know we'll get on this topic, but Deion Sanders' high profile position at Jackson State is going to bring in a lot of money, not only to the school, but to the athletic programs through Nike and through the commercials that you see in Blimpies and all other things. You're going to see a lot more corporate sponsorship when it comes to HBCUs, I think, in the coming years.
And Kelvin, when you was down at St. Paul's, because I was in school when St. Paul started having trouble. When your head coach and sat down and started giving you information on the plight of St. Paul's football program, i.e. school /school, what would you have to say about kind of like knowing that on firsthand?
Well, being in that situation, it taught me a lot of things. I was just coming on doing spring football practices and seeing a lot of the lack of funding, the lack of resources really hit home for a college program. And as the coach began to share some things with me in that regards, to me, it's like it starts at the top. Yes, we're starting to see funding come to HBCUs. And with the social unrest that has went on from George Floyd, things are beginning to become an upward trend. But I think at the top, we have to, the people that are in charge have to be diligent. They have to be resourceful with the funds that they've been allocated with. They also have to know how to reinvent themselves as an institution. I look at St. Paul's College, James Solomon Russell, he came in and started, all the history you may know about that. But St. Paul's never really invented themselves with the way the trends of education is, instead of the brick and mortar traditional look, maybe going online. So I think some of the HBCUs, in my perspective, should go to that trend to be able to get more students, get access, and that would generate the revenue and then make the funds resources go further. So that's what I saw. Not the reinvention wasn't there at the St. Paul's, in my experience, in that short span of time.
Oh, definitely. So to add to what Kelvin just said, and doing some research, I found out that for every $1 of research in the HBCU, they spend 80 cents of that towards the athletic program. In comparison to PWI, so every $1 they spend, they only spend 14 cents on the athletic programs. So at HBCUs, it seems like we're spending a lot more money on our athletes, on our athletics, with the hope that the athletics will bring in the consumer, which they'll pump more money into the university so they can use it in other places. But in a lot of cases, that hasn't been seen because some HBCUs are talking about either cutting classes or combining majors and classes to save money because of the low enrollment.
Well, Derek, part of the reasons that the PWIs could do that is because of the corporate sponsorship. So if you look at the bigger schools, they have Nike, they have Under Armour, they have Reebok. And like you said, they have athletic endowment funds from, NFL athletes, from, just people who are super fans. People go to Penn State and Notre Dame just because they're Penn State and Notre Dame. And then when you go to a bowl game and you walk away from a bowl game with $12 million, that's spread across the board for all athletic programs. So I think that's a major factor where HBCUs, they may have a smaller local Rydell endorsement or something like that, but they're not getting any TV revenue. I mean, Notre Dame is on TV every Saturday. That's millions and millions of dollars, not just for football, but for their school.
Yeah, when we were talking about,
go ahead, J-Dub.
I was gonna say when we were talking earlier this week, and I pointed out in the dissertation that it talks about the University of Texas athletic department Longhorn Network. That's the athletic department's Longhorn Network. It said it generated $180 million a year, and that's a network for University of Texas just for their athletic department. So go ahead, D.
And he said also you've seen that a lot of the Power 5 conferences have now had their own network. The SEC network, the ACC network, the Pac-12 network, the Big Ten network. All of these Power 5 conferences now have networks. HBCUs, just in the last 5 years, are now got partnerships with CBS Sports, ESPN U or 3. Jackson State today was on ESPN 2, which was a big deal because usually they relegate the HBCU games to the lower ESPN affiliates. And then you have the Aspire network that shows SEAC and CIAA games. But again, you look at the Aspire, the ESPN 3U, and the CBS Sports. Those are less viewed networks. I mean, they might be better than back in the day when me and Hutchison in high school. If you wanted to catch a Hampton playing Norfolk, he was hoping it's going to be on BET on Saturday or something. But it's getting there. But again, it's almost like climbing this mountain where every time you get to one peak, it's like another peak is sprung up behind that one. So it's always like we're always trying to catch up to the next peak, and it seems like we don't have enough resource to get there. Or as Hutch said, we haven't found out how to reinvent ourselves to somehow counteract what's going on.
Right on. Okay, now we're going to step into this section of the dissertation. It talks about the financing of the HBCU athletic programs. And the bullet points I grabbed out of over the past 10 years, expenditures have increased significantly amongst HBCUs. Point 2. However, there's little research to exactly show how expenditures have increased. And it shows this. In 2013, Florida A&M University was paid $900,000 more. And that was more than half of the annual football budget. They played Ohio State University. Now, there was a risk for their football players to play them because of the team they was playing, that Power 5 and a Division 2. But the dissertation was saying it was a risk for them to take because of the funds that they generated. And HBCUs do not employ, it doesn't employ a market, like you were saying, Calvin, they don't employ a marketing or external relation employee in their athletic department just to work on finding new revenue or new advertising streams to bring in some funds. What y'all think about that?
Yeah, and again, it's the university is trying to find money. And I read the same article, and we all know about the pay-for-play games. It was Howard played Harvard a few years ago, and they got $688.5 million. And that was about a quarter of their athletic budget. So we all know about these pay-to-play games that the smaller schools, and sometimes, I know we're talking about PWIs and HBCUs, but sometimes the FCS teams play the bigger FBS teams just to get that money to generate their athletic programs. And in football, this happens to be the first sport of the year, and that's kind of like the catalyst for the rest of the year. So it's like you see people building these bigger stadiums, and Prairie View is trying to build a $50 million stadium because they hope that they can pack the house so that the money that they can get from the fans attending can generate enough revenue for the rest of the year. So yeah, these pay-to-play games are big, and if you get the money and you allocate it the right way, Savannah State tried to do the same thing here when they first got in playing in these pay-to-play games, but it didn't bode well for them because of the way that they used the money that they got. And sometimes, it's what's the saying is scared money don't make money. So it's kind of like you had to go get this money to make your program operate. But if you don't use the money that you get from that, you may have done all that for nothing because your program still may go down the drain.
Yeah, but it's the risk is big. But I mean, this year UCLA is playing Alabama State, North Carolina Central in football, and for years since the '80s, Coppin State has played Kansas, Kentucky. I mean, if you look at Coppin State's history, they've been doing it for years, and those are money games. And the money games are here because you just don't know what happens. Come here, we're in March Madness now. It could be an upset. I think Norfolk State qualified for the MEAC. And, we were all probably there cheering when Coppin State knocked off Texas or when Hampton had a big win over, different schools. So basketball is a little, I think less risk when it comes to the health of the kids. Football, unfortunately, there's a health issue because I think a couple of years ago, a young man from Southern was actually paralyzed in one of those money games. So you have to be careful, but is it worth it? And the exposure for the kids. You get a chance to play UCLA. So that's a great sell for Alabama State when it comes for recruiting, a great sell for NC Central to say, look, we're playing UCLA. That's going to bring money into the school and top recruits. So instead of you getting that 2-star recruit, that 3 or 4-star recruit, say, look, I'm not going to play a big game. I may come to, Central.
Yes, I agree with you, Benji. I was about to say UCLA and Central has that deal, and that's going to be big in the next couple of years on recruiting athletes and getting that exposure. But I wanted to kind of dive into, as the dissertation talked about, are some of these HBCUs, should they be Division I? Are they kind of forcing their hand? I just give an example, like Savannah State went Division I, and then they had to drop back down, I believe. And so that really kind of buzzed me far as evaluating should we be Division I? Should we be Division II? Are we just stringing along? Should we drop down and maybe garner more resources, use our resources effectively in that way? Also, JW talked about the marketing aspect. Some of these bigger PWIs, they do have social media teams in the athletic department. That's big. And HBCUs have the biggest following far as social media. So why can't we produce those numbers and to generate revenue? So that's something to think about. If you have the biggest following, the statistics say that you're number one far as all social media platforms and athletics, then something has to be researched, something has to be looked into to be able to generate and garner revenue. One of the things for me as a coach, and I might be going a little bit ahead of myself, at a small high school I was at, one of the things that PWIs do, they leave no stone unturned as far as recruiting. I may be at a small high school as a coach, but the Virginia Techs, the UVAs, they're always going to reach out. They're always going to send me social media. They're always going to communicate. And I feel like that's something that the HBCUs, if they can just, you may not have a lot of resources, but tapping into an email, sending an email, putting a GA, a loads person on the totem pole on the staff just to send emails, directives. So many things out there, constant contact nowadays. That constant line of communication also spreads your brand. It also brings revenue when, as a coach, I can share what the HBCU is giving me as a coach from marketing materials, emails, and communication. So I look at it like that. I didn't mean to ramble on.
Oh no,
That's
that's
what we're doing. Real quick, D, that's what we're doing. This is we're gonna hit the point. We're gonna put out a fact, and we're gonna jump on it. But D, before I turn it over to you with your information, I want to let everybody know who's viewing through social media, Facebook and the JW Effect Facebook page. If we're saying anything that you have a question for, go to your comment box, type it in, and we can put it up on the screen, read it, and we can discuss it. And you can do that while we talking. All right, D, what you got for me?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think Hutch touched on something about the marketing aspect. In reading the information about the television and the alumni giving and things like that, it talked about the marketing aspect. How, as Hutch said, that PWIs or bigger PWIs have a whole marketing team in the athletic department. At most HBCUs, there is maybe one person who may be an assistant athletic director to facilities or whatever, but attributed to his responsibility is somehow fielding marketing conversations, or it might be the AD. So you got people in the HBCU department doing multiple jobs, which they're not able to do all of fully to its fullest extent. And when you talk about just simple things as flyers or buttons or pins and stuff like that, when you go to recruit or when you go to a fair, that's the first thing that they give you. Those are like free marketing materials that you get that keeps that name in your mind, in the house, and things like that. And HBCUs don't do a good job of that. And again, when we talked about earlier about these TV games, as J Dub said, 180 million, the Texas Longhorn Network. So that's 180 million they get from TV. They getting probably almost close to $1 billion in just revenue. And then you think of the alumni giving and things like that they're getting. They're making enough money to field many athletic teams at their school. Baseball team can get the top equipment. Swimming team can get the top equipment. Volleyball team, golf team. And these are teams that are not on TV, that they are free for people to go into. The only two sports you really pay for in college sports is really football and basketball. Everything else is free to go to: baseball, swimming, soccer, lacrosse, field hockey, golf. All those things are free. So, but when you put all the money into football and basketball to generate their revenue, you get gross dividends. But as Hutch alluded to about, are we out of our league? And that's a great question. Are HBCUs out of the league? Are we trying to, as the old folks would say, trying to keep up with the Joneses? You know, it seems like every time we try to put that money into the broadcasting and into the things, we're only getting not the creme de la creme networks. We're getting Aspire and the tertiary ESPN and the CBS Sports. So we're putting our money in there, but we're not getting still the publicity as a Notre Dame or Ohio State. Even though FAMU, which is an FCS school, won the first FCS championship in 1978. And you don't hear much about that because they're the only ones that won, but they still won one. And a few years ago, they were trying to get into the SEC or the ACC, you know, but because of financial constraints, they couldn't get in there. And again, also with that financial part is that the student enrollments are a major resource of money that they get from HBCUs get to fund their programs and fund the school, and along with alumni giving. And alumni, not every alumni is going to be Oprah or Jerry Rice or one of Walter Payton's kids. Most alumni are like us. You know, we have regular 9-to-5s, you know, and we maybe we can, you know, $100 here, there, or we try, you go to homecoming, you may spend a couple of $100 there at homecoming. But as far as having big bank, we don't. And look at some other research. Again, going back to that Harvard-Howard game, Harvard has 188 billionaires has went to that school. 188 billionaires compared to HBCUs alone. Let me see if I can find that information because I found that to be very astounding that by themselves they have 188 billionaires and HBCUs have only 2, and that's Oprah and another gentleman. So the money that some of these other schools have and that they can put in is greater than we can.
All right, real quick, we got some chats coming in. I'm gonna put them up here, and I'm gonna let Calvin and Benji jump on them. And so the first one, whichever one of y'all want to take this question, go for it. This is from Kevin Lucas. Oh, I like this interface. Let's go. HBCUs do not utilize the skill set of those who are in a defeated definite supporting cast of marketing and management. I experienced this at Hutchison
to Lotson here in Austin.
Okay, which one of y'all want to jump on there?
Yeah, I mean, Kevin, if you don't mind, I just would say the advantage now with marketing is technology. So that kind of evens the playing field a little bit. So you don't have as large of a staff. Most companies and most schools are downsizing in these departments instead of increasing because you could get a techie behind, a screen and kill them with marketing. I mean, you're talking about Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You do edits to send to athletes. Like kids love edits. So if you have an 18-year-old can do great edits for Virginia State or for Hampton or something like that, that evens the playing field. So it really comes down to a talent pool that you select. And I think you have schools like Hampton and now A&T in the Big South Conference, they have to step their game up when it comes to stuff like that, when it comes to recruiting kids within their conference, because kids are going to be bored on this. The COVID year has evened the playing field. Kids have not been able to get on campus. So all of your recruitment is basically through technology, through phone calls, through text messages. Just comes down to hard work and being innovative.
Yes, let me just piggyback on you, Benji. You said it only takes a little bit. One tech person. I'll just give you an example. I'm not coaching it right now, but I still receive emails from different schools out there. So I have a school. I had Clemson. I put it out there last year. They send me an email every week, a motivational, a devotional, and it may be a paragraph. That's easy to do. Like Benji said, it's easy things out there. The technology is giving us. They don't cost money. It's free. It's different websites, different things that you can design. I get Coastal Carolina. They send me weekly. Their coaching staff. I mean, it's not even with graphics. It's typed in there, but it's very personable, where it makes me as a coach want to say, hey, son, I have this school here. I think this would be a good fit. They're introducing their coaching staff, where they're from, through email. And so it doesn't take a big marketing team like we're looking at. That's great if you have the resources, but it starts at the grassroots. It starts at the basics, being diligent about getting your program out, having relationships with everybody. I've had Virginia Tech. I just throw it out there. They'll come by. They're from Blacksburg, 6 hours away from where I'm from. I'm in a small school in a rural area. That coach will take his time to stop by there just to spend a few minutes. I might not even have a kid that could ever have the ability to go there. But what he told me, we leave no stone unturned. We just want to check with you. We want to meet with you face to face. Same thing where they send literature every week. Friday night, I will get in my mailbox when I come in that morning. Good luck this week, coach. I see that you're playing my rival, Brunswick High School. Good luck this week. They send little small things. And so that makes a difference when I hang that in the locker room to my kids, to be able to see, oh, man, I get to go to this school. They're thinking about me. And we don't get that from the HBCUs And I don't know if I answered the question, but it doesn't take much in marketing. You put your foot forward, you do what you have, just take your time and get it done. And I believe if they would do that, the other stuff will come. The big things will come, the big projects, the big resources will come. But it starts with the basics first, and then you can go from there.
Yeah. Hey, JW, if you don't mind, I mean, the one thing that has dispelled some of this is, and I hate to keep dwelling on it, Deion Sanders had the #1 recruiting class in the FCS this past year, and that came from him being on TV for Domino's and Blimpie. Even though it was not related to Jackson State, that visibility was able to get him in that transfer portal to get kids from Florida State, from Clemson, all over the place. And it just comes down to being creative. And I mean, he's in a unique situation, but I think some other people need to, really piggyback on his success.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. Part of this journey of getting information to the basic questions that I was hearing, why we cannot get black high school top athletes in the HBCUs, keep them from the PWI, why we can't fund this, why we can't do this. But it's like I said earlier, it's a lot to the pie. But so I kind of was wishy-washy about the Deion Sanders until I watched the game, and I'm sitting there like, whoa, because I know for a fact Virginia State's head coach, Coach Barlow, he has NFL pedigree, and he has coaches down there with NFL pedigree. I sat and talked with him, and he let me talk to the team. So him coming from Alabama State, he pulls Alabama State recruits that he was there, and he brought some players with him. Virginia State's program has stepped up based on what it was when I was there 30 years ago. So it's a lot of players from HBCUs just out there in the world. Now it's almost like now we got to get more personal with it. Do we really want to come on and make this thing what it is? Because the history of HBCU football is strong. We have over 40 to close to 50 Hall of Famers who were #1 or tops in their position that got them in the Hall of Fame. So it's not like we never was around. It's just like my man Kelvin said, we have to find a way to advertise in the way it's been advertised now. And we got to find those resources. So yeah, I give it to Deion, because when he beat Grambling, the next day, Jackson State is now going to be playing on ESPN2. I was like, okay, if that's coming, but you got to do what you got to do, and it looks good. So that's going to help the HBCUs, but we gotta piggyback on that, and you gotta really rock it now. You know what I'm saying?
And I guess, Ward, my question to that is about, so Deion gets Jackson, takes it to another level, just like Eddie Robinson took Grambling to another level back in the day. Are the other HBCUs going to be able to keep up if Jackson gets in the middle? I'm not even saying they get in the hammer lane, but if they get in the middle lane, are they going to be able, are the other HBCUs going to be able to keep up with Jackson, or is Jackson going to outgrow the SWAC and try to move to another league and then start all over again?
Well, I like that, because really, we talked about this a lot too. We talked about how Hampton stepped up, how North Carolina A&T stepped up. Are some schools hanging on to their conference, i.e. the CIAA, i.e. the MEAC, because of booster and alumni? Or are they really interested in making their university stronger through these programs by stepping up to another conference? Because now you tie into the money, now you get into the recruiting flow, and it gives you more exposure. You know what I'm saying? That's what that's going to do for Hampton and North Carolina A&T. So if you want to sit at the table or be in the room with these big boys, you need to change your game. But this is just one of what we're discussing is part of the whole pack. It's a lot to this. It's a lot to this. So now we're going to jump on. What you got for me, Dirk, about the finances?
Yeah. So before we get to more about the finances, there's a question in the chat, and Ron had put this in here a few minutes ago. And he said there's needs to be an investment in marketing positions in HBCUs for the sole purpose of developing additional revenue streams. Without this investment, HBCUs won't have the professional capacity who have the experience with creating additional revenue streams with a network as well as corporate sponsor. How should HBCU schools explore this. And I think it goes back to a question that we had talked about. Because there needs to be some type of marketing person, department, group, or something at HBCUs for not only for the athletic department, for the school as a whole. And how do we, as Benji and Kelvin touched on, their kids now in the thing of social media, they can go take something, crop it, repost it all in 5 minutes, and it's a brand new piece of literature. But how do HBCUs tap into this, and going back to something that Kelvin said earlier about reinventing yourself? Sometimes, HBCUs can be like a 90s Steve Harvey suit. It's big, it's baggedy, it got like 12 buttons. How can we now take that same suit and make it 4 buttons and make it more of a European cut so we can sell it and push it out?
All right, real fast. I got a new. Let me see.
That was the question, boy. That was the question that we were trying to get an answer to. Because
that's why I got the professionals on here. Benji.
Yeah, I think, in a short note, I think me and Calvin both hit on it, is ingenuity and how you build on it. And you hit on something really, I think that is important. You think about Eddie Robinson era at Grambling, he increased the profile for everybody. So when Eddie Robinson came to New York to play in the Whitney Young Classic, where they would fill the stadium, each year he'd bring different teams. He would bring Morgan State. He would bring different teams and give them that exposure. You look at the exposure of Florida A&M's marching band. They went from, a national marching band. They made everybody else step their game up. Here comes Southern. Here comes Norfolk State. Here comes everybody else. So it comes down to ingenuity and being creative. That's it. And I think technology levels the field somewhat. Money helps.
and then 40 years coaching at Grambling and having the great athletes that he had, that helps too. So kudos and rest RIP to Eddie Roberts, because I did have a chance to meet him in the elevator real quick when I played in the second annual Freedom Bowl, and he told me something that I can't ever forget. But that's another question. Another show. So what would you got, D? We're going to the financial portion.
Yeah, so going right into the financial portion again is that we through the course of the show today, we've seen the HBCUs are having trouble getting finances, which leads to trouble getting coaches, which leads to trouble getting players. But now we see that LeBron James in the NBA last week just had an all-star game where the funds went to the Thurgood Marshall Fund and the United Negro College Fund. And so there's a question in the chat that should now these top athletes give back to HBCUs, even though they didn't go to none? Is it their responsibility to give back to the culture, to help build a culture of HBCU athletes who can thrive and be great professionals as well?
I think that's a great lead in. If you watch the NBA All-Star game, to see Virginia State go across that board was like, I was excited for it. But you got to give a lot of credit to Chris Paul, because he really was behind it, not LeBron James, when it comes to giving back. Chris Paul set up a symposium bringing Harvard to, I believe, Winston-Salem, and also the funds that were going into it. There were millions of dollars raised for scholarship funds this past weekend. And as you see, the young brother from Tennessee State who played, he already built, a facility down in Tennessee State.
Yeah.
As an HBCU guy. And then it goes on. Magic Johnson has brought in a lot of money through his productions and his companies to HBCUs. So I think it's a cultural obligation, I think, for some of them. And this has been going on for years, that people are going to give back and do things for their communities and their culture. And like I said, with the heightened awareness of social unjust unrest here in America, I think there's no better time for some of these celebrities, not just athletes, to step up and lend their name to some of the fundraising that's needed for us to have a really, truly an endowment fund for our students. So nobody has to go home for $1,000. Nobody has to go home for $500 anymore. And I think that's been the history in the past. So I think the time is really now hot for these guys to come in. And I think it's the right thing to do for them.
Yeah, because through a lot of discussions too, I see a lot of video podcasts on YouTube, and they have topics of what we're talking about, and they defend it real well. But first of all, I have to say, I do not know what an individual is doing behind the scenes. 9 times out of 10 in the world today, most of our top celebrities are operating behind the scenes because they don't, they want to protect their interests and their money. That's just the bottom line. So the ones who step out there and they letting it know, like you said about Chris Paul, they're showing up and showing out. So I really can't say that they're not doing it, but I know it's enough because I think I shared this with Dirk. There are 107 HBCUs. 51 of them are private. The other ones are state driven. There are 11 black billionaires and a whole bunch of millionaires. An endowment, you can start an endowment for a university for $25,000 and designate what that endowment is. So everything is there to be used. It's about getting that mission out there and getting everybody to jump on board because, some people just don't want to touch it because of the status that they built.
And that's a good point, Ward. And doing some research, again, subsidies, if you don't know what subsidy is an institutional support, government support, or student fees. 23 out of 228 D1 public schools didn't need subsidies. You want to know why those 23 didn't need subsidies? Because those 23 participated in Power 5 conferences that participated in bowl games. The best HBCU that had a negative 2.4 million budget was Mississippi Valley State. That means they didn't get no subsidies from nobody. And they had a negative $2.4 million budget.
Right.
With subsidies, Morgan State was at a plus of 475,000. Not million, 475,000. So they didn't get a pair of track shoes, a new basketball, and some basketball nets. It's crazy that as many HBCUs rely on the subsidies, the government grants, the investments, and the student fees. And again, with UNCF, United Negro College for Thurgood Marshall, they have select schools that they give the kids apply for those scholarships. They apply for the scholarships, but sometimes not enough money to go around to take care of all the kids because there are still some first generation kids going to school, and they rely on. I know when I went to Virginia State University, it was $8,000. I was talking to people that weren't in the early 90s, and it was like it was $1,000 a semester. I was like, $1,000 a semester, right? That's a drop in the bucket. But now you're talking about private schools are at 25 plus. Now some state schools are at 15 plus for in-state kids. So if they're not getting the Pell Grant, if they're not getting a UNCF or Thurgood Marshall grant, or if they're not getting the Delta Sigma Theta book voucher or the Alpha Phi Alpha academic scholarship, they're taking out loans to get to school. And there was a study that showed that over 50% of HBCU graduates have debt compared to less than 40% of PWI graduates.
And that's important, like you said, with the alumni, to get back on it. You think about in 2019, Robert Smith paid off $34 million worth of tuition at Morehouse. And I think that also ignited a lot more generosity when it came to people who are well off. And I think you'll see more of that from some of our, people who are HBCU grads and not HBCU grads, just to even the wealth disparity. As we know, the wealth disparity in America is ridiculous. I mean, I think the average white person's wealth is close to $300,000, where African Americans is only $7,000. So that's a major issue that we face across the board as people.
I have let me see. As for the sake of time, like I think every time we get into something powerful like this, we will probably go over a little bit longer. But I want to, Derek, I want to shift real quick because of what Kelvin's and Kelvin just, I guess, having what's called, but Benji, till he come back on, I really want to point this out. Part of the dissertation talks about attracting coaches. attracting coaches. And I know with the New Jersey, let me see if I can get it right, the New Jersey Minority Athletic Coaching
Coaches Association.
Coaches
You got it. You got
Let's
it.
see if I can get it right. Like I said, when I was on that Zoom call with y'all, man, I told you, I really haven't talked to you one-on-one since then, but I got a lot of like DMX said in the movie, I feel a lot coming off that couch right there, a couple from my screen. That was a beautiful setting. 80 powerful African-American coaches who all got one thing in mind: get the kids in school, get them their degree, and coach them up right. Man, I loved it. But okay, our man Kelvin is back on. Let me get him in here. I wanna twist to this. How for both of y'all coaching, both of y'all coach and y'all in that setting, how do we attract Black coaches or a minority coach? Because that one, hey, when I played ball at Kelvin, St. Paul had 2 straight year winning season with a white coach, and I guess he got the call for that money. He left out because they beat us one year. I think they went 8-2. So y'all talk to my guests out there and explain to us how can HBCUs attract these prominent coaches.
I mean, obviously, money is a major issue on how you're going to pay people unless you have well-off coaches who are trying to get their foot in the door. So you look at Morgan State, Tyrone Wheatley, former NFL coach, is there. You know, he roamed in the NFL a little bit, a little college as far as a position coach. So if you want an opportunity to move up the chain a little quicker as a coordinator or as a head coach, the HBC route is a great route for young coaches and people to get an opportunity. I mean, you have coaches even at Morgan State. Todd Bozeman was a Final Four coach at California with Jason Kidd, and he's still at, Morgan State after all these years. And I'm sure that's somewhat of a choice and somewhat you look at stability. So I think you make it attractive and you give them an opportunity to lead in leadership positions. And when we were on the call the other day, Ward, we were with the head coach from Rutgers University, Greg Schiano. His right-hand man, Fran Brown, is a young brother who's out of New Jersey, who's been at, Eastern Carolina, Temple, Baylor, and they brought him back home. He's going to be a Power 5 coach real soon. You're going to remember that name, Fran Brown, because as Coach Schiano said that day, we don't want you guys to be known for recruiting. We need you guys to be known for the X and O's so they can never question you when it comes to becoming a coordinator or a head coach. So that the opportunity is there for HBCUs to give that exposure to many young coaches.
Understand. What you got, Kelvin?
Yeah, just to piggyback, Benji said it perfectly, but not to add too much there. Like Barlow in Virginia State, he played in the NFL. He has some cachet with him, and continue pushing those coaches out front. Barlow is there. The athletic department should be pushing him, putting him on the front lines as a recruiting target. So at these schools, like same way Jackson State is doing with Dion, which Dion has his own personal things, so forth, but they're going to put him on the front lines and he's going to attract more recruits there. I was just looking at Willie Lanier. He's not a coach, he's an alumni, but from Virginia Union. I didn't know that till some years ago, but now he's starting to show his face. They're starting to show him. So I think you have to show these coaches, not being afraid to go out and maybe attract from some of the PWIs. Like you said, money is going to be a big thing, but just keep going at it, and it will work out.
All right, good stuff, guys. So we have 3 minutes left in the show, and what we're going to do, we're going to do some rapid fire questions because we have some in the chat that we want to respect people's questions and get some answers to that. So the first question is, keeping it real. A piece of our dirty laundry in the Black community is in the negative perception some Black businesses have, especially from those within our community. How much does this unfortunate perception of Black businesses has affected HBCUs? 45 seconds, guys, to answer that question. How much does this unfortunate perception of Black businesses affected HBCUs?
I don't know how much it affects HBCUs, but in general, Black folks are harder on ourselves than we're on others. So if you go to Mama's Fried Chicken owned by a Black company and they make a mistake on your order, you're on social media tearing them apart. But if you go to McDonald's and they add extra pickles, you just slide those pickles off and keep moving. So it's just a mindset we have to have that, we have to give our people a second chance also because we're human. We got to make mistakes.
Yes, we got to support our people as well too. We'll go out as fans to McDonald's. before we go out and support, that mom and pop chicken restaurant. We just got to support them and put the word out. And like he said, don't be as hard on them. And people make mistakes and just go forward like that.
All right. And next question from Kevin Miller. It says, how about starting the HBCU Sports Network? Is there enough interest? Can we start our own network, just like FUBU, for us, by us? Do you think we have a chance to start it? Is there enough interest in that? 45 seconds, guys.
Go ahead, Calvin. You can get it first.
Yes, I had this idea years ago myself, thinking about a network. I think you can with the technology out there. Start it small on the computer, the technology, and just let it stretch forth and be creative. I think it's a lot of room for that. I hope someone will jump into that idea.
Yeah, and as you know, we have a new Black News Network coming out now. So this is very possible. And, from the BETs, from the Aspires, it just takes, something big, that will catch on. And I think as far as viewing audiences, unfortunately, Black folks, we watch a lot of TV and a lot of social media and stuff like that. This is not too far off that it could happen and be successful.
Definitely. And don't forget HBCU Game Day, which you can watch clips on YouTube and follow them on Twitter and Instagram as well. And they're not as widely known, not sure why. I've caught a couple of clips of there either way, but you can follow them on all the social media platforms and things like that. Again, guys, those were great questions, a great show today. What you think, J-Dub?
Oh man, this is wonderful. I'm glad we made it into a 3 parts, and we're digging in to the different aspects to answer that question. Why we can't get them there, and where's the money? It's a lot to the pie. I'm gonna keep saying it. And like you said, we just want to present facts to spark personal perspective. So with that, we're here at the end now, and I always like leaving y'all with something. First of all, Kelvin, Benji, you got something you want to say to the viewers based on the topic? You want to leave us with something?
I just would like to say that, I believe there's a lot of hope when it comes to HBCUs, increased funding, visibility. And I think, you see some of these top guys going here because we are also the place that, they talk about last chance you. HBCU's been last chance you for a long time. So when a lot of brothers and sisters don't make it at those Power 5 schools, we need to be there with our hands wide open and welcome back home. So, let's eat some humble pie and bring back, those folks back to home where they belong.
I agree. The days are getting brighter for HBCUs. Let's continue supporting and trying to have creative ways to get us there and take us to the promised land.
What you got for me, Dirk?
Man, definitely great show. And again, the ground is fertile and the seeds have been planted. We just had to keep watering those seeds and watch the benefit of that watering happen for HBCUs. Don't give up hope. Keep the faith is what you used to say in the old church. Don't lose the faith. Keep the faith.
All right. So again, I thank my guest Kelvin, Benji, my host Derek. We gave him a great show today. A lot of information. The chat line on social media was blowing up. We apologize if we didn't get your question in, but we got a show 3 coming in 2 weeks. We're going to close it out with a great topic on a conclusion on everything that we talked about. And like I always say, I like to leave y'all with something to carry with you throughout the week after the show. And today I have a quote from the Kemet Empire. The Kemet Empire. The world is a mirror reflecting thoughts and emotions. Try this. Be still and smile. Yeah, I've done that. The world is not smiling back. I see your problem. You know this? If the world is a mirror, it is a mirror for all. Maybe you're looking at someone else's reflection and taking it for yourself. Like I said, it was a great show. Thank y'all for tuning in. And I always like to say, truth needs no support. So I like to go ahead and say, y'all have a great week. Keep the mask on, and I'll see you next time on Kicking It with the JW Effect.